All right, folks, it's time for World Politics. We'll see if anybody else joins us on this particular edition. But let's see what's happening in world politics. Pete Hedges is facing grilling from Democrats at the confirmation hearing. So that is something that we were expecting. And definitely looks like the GOP senators are flipping the script on Dems for hypocritical grilling of Hedges. And they're saying that it is so ridiculous. So there are definitely some takeaways from this as well. And even Politico is reporting that the Hedges defense is deny, blame, and shrug. So definitely a lot's going on in that space, and we'll see what goes on in the nature of world politics when it comes to who will be confirmed and everything like that. As President-elect Biden will be taking office in about 6 days or something along those lines, since it will be on the 20th, and today is the 14th. Hamas okays draft agreement of a Gaza ceasefire and the release of some hostages, officials say. So Netanyahu huddled with hostage negotiation team, security chiefs in order to finalize the deal. So definitely it looks like there is a ceasefire taking place in that particular area. And Catherine, the Princess of Wales, confirms she is in remission from cancer, and Princess Kate says that her cancer is in remission. So definitely Kate Middleton tells cancer patients she got so attached to her chemotherapy port in candid comments in that regards. And Ukraine strikes Russia in a major drone and missile attack, Russian media and officials report, and Ukrainian drones flew 400 miles to double tap a Russian bomber base. So definitely that is something going on in that way also. And definitely, there's a lot of things, as I said earlier, that we're learning from Pope Francis and his book and everything, his new memoir. And we'll see what folks have to say about that. And South Korea, Yoon Suk Yeol faces fresh arrest attempt. So investigators with reinforcements try again to detain the South Korean leader. So that looks like they are launching their second attempt to arrest the president, and that's what is being reported from Yonhap. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the political landscape and all the way along those lines. Blinken makes the case for a post-war reconstruction and security and governance of Gaza. So definitely that's something else going on in the political landscape as well. And definitely it looks like rescuers are trying to free men trapped in South African gold mine, with scores reported dead. So more than 1,000 miners died of starvation or dehydration after being trapped in the abandoned shaft for months and all along those lines. So definitely be interesting to see what people have to say about that. And tough times for the Iron Chancellor, who needs to regain the nation's trust. That's what folks are saying over there, I believe, in the UK area. So Ryu says that UK must go further and faster in search of economic growth. So UK to meet fiscal rules of all times, according to their Treasury chief, and all along those guys. And the Guardian view on Rachel Reeves: turbulence caused by caution, cuts, and criticism. So definitely that's what we're hearing. And even alternative housing, one of the housing areas that people oftentimes talk about is Airbnbs. And apparently Spain's prime minister wants up to 100% property taxes on foreign buyers, because they're saying that there are too many Airbnbs there. And Starmer won't be drawn into a row over Spain's 100% home tax plan. So Spain proposes 100% tax on property purchases, and all in that line from non-EU backers. So Spain will tackle its rich landlords and poor tenant problems by hiking property. So we'll see how that all plays out and what folks have to see about that as well. I did hear a couple of clicks, so that means I got some people, at least one or two, in the house. So I do have Sasha Star with me, and I know he's got all kinds of interesting things going on in his world. So I'll be seeing what he's got happening, and we'll see if anybody else joins us as well. And of course, we still got those fires going on in LA and everything like that. And of course, we've got the Pete Hedges hearings, and we'll see if that gets us anybody in terms of him being nominated, and who some of the other nominees as well. And Trump is saying he will create new agencies to collect revenue from foreign sources. So some people, including the group that David Walker was with, No Labels and everything, I think they were trying to get less agencies, but maybe there's going to be additional agencies. So Trump said he's going to create a new agency to collect revenue from foreign sources. So he's going to create an external revenue service. So I guess instead of the IRS, we'll have the external revenue service that'll collect tariff income, and that is something that he is supposed to be announcing. And Trump wants a new agency to collect money from Americans who import goods and everything like that. So just really quickly, what's your thoughts on that, Sasha? Do you think that we need an agency of external agency and all along those lines to control what's going on in the space of having a new agency? Because I know even David Walker, and I think on this network, we've had people say they want to cut agencies, but now it looks like we're going to grow an agency because we're going to have the external revenue service. So that's what Trump wants. So what's your thoughts on this? Is this agency we need to collect money from uh, folks like in Canada and China and other places?
I think it's a catastrophic consequences will be felt and very soon because even Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau, who I don't regard very highly, but he made one very interesting observation of Trump. He said that he was dealing with Trump in his first cadence as a president 4 years ago or so. And what he's saying is that this strategy of Trump to escalate situation with friends and enemies to extract something bigger than he thought would be possible, it backfires. I mean, you can do it in real estate transactions and business dealings if that's your style, but that's not the right style for international relationship because what's happening is that Canada, for example, and some European countries, they are going to retaliate and very strongly against Trump and his policies. Tomorrow in Ottawa, there is a meeting of all premiers of 10 Canadian provinces to discuss retaliatory actions against United States, number one. Number two, uh, Canada is going to have multilateral discussions with European Union countries and will uh, learn about possibilities of joining European Union. And essentially, they're going to most likely put the barriers of entry of any, if not all, American products in Canada, and so will do probably most of the countries in European Union. Most likely, it will be Denmark because of the Greenland situation. It will be probably Germany. It will be probably France and UK, and so on. So this is absolutely catastrophic situation. Nobody seriously believes that Trump's attempt to put the additional barriers like uh, tariffs and anything else. So this is now everybody is aware that this is just a strategy for future negotiations. There is no substance behind it, and retaliatory measures are required to stop him once and for all. Now, there is something interesting else happening between Steve Bannon and Elon Musk. Bannon is now convinced absolutely that Musk is a security threat for the United States, and to have his entry to White House, he has to go through clearance with FBI, and there is no way that he would be able to go through that clearance for several reasons, and not the last one is being his meetings with certain leaders of foreign countries who are enemies of United States, including Putin. And never mind, Trump is going now. He's preparing a meeting with Mr. Putin, who is subject of order for the arrest by international court. So this is, in my opinion, now today's hearing about Peter Hegseth is, they're talking a lot about his womanizing or drinking problems, but people forgetting that he's simply unqualified whatsoever to be in the position where they are trying to make sure whether he's eligible or not. He's just
Well,
unqualified.
I've been
Yeah,
reading about his military service. So you have as a military officer, you have 6 ranks to go through
Right.
before you even get to general. And general, there are 4 or 5 ranks. And
yep,
really, it's nice to have somebody. I think Lloyd Austin, the current guy, what is a 4-star general? That's good. Pete Hegseth is a major. That's rank number 4. It goes second lieutenant, first lieutenant, captain, major. I'm not even sure he served as a major active duty, because when you leave to go to the reserves, they will pop you up a rank just so you get paid a little bit more for being in the reserves. You know, yeah, he's not qualified in terms of military experience. You want a crusty old guy who's gone through 7, 8, 9 ranks, who's been posted to a bunch of different places, who knows his stuff. And Hegseth started in the National Guard, which isn't even active military. He had 3 deployments, well spaced apart. I'm not sure he even spent a total of 6 years as active military.
Rick, wait a sec. He was the last position that he held in the army. He was a commander of about 30 people. It's a very small
Yeah,
organization. The army veterans or something with a very modest budget. The budget was gone and very quickly, and there was no positive record of this. And how you can elevate somebody? Okay, after that he was an anchor of Fox News. So how you can elevate somebody who was in command of 30 people to Pentagon with the enormous?
where he'll command 3 million people. You know,
How
that's
do you do it?
an increase of what, 10 million% in his responsibilities.
So this most likely
So
again Trump negotiations position to put up the absolutely impossible candidate. Okay, he will be blocked. So then Trump, okay, you don't like him, that's fine. Okay, here is another guy who probably would be even worse than Peter, although it's very difficult to imagine who could be worse than that. But he'll say, okay, you don't want this guy, I'll give you that guy, or something like this.
But Sasha, it seems to me that except for one requirement, and I'm not sure if it's a requirement for cabinet members. I know it's a requirement for president and everything like that. But maybe Nick agrees with me. But it seems to me like you should have that job as well and everything. And by the way, Nick, you got that Mickey Mouse thing going on as well. But I was just wondering your thoughts around this notion, Sasha, that maybe you could do it because you did serve in the Soviet Army, not the Russian Army, but the Soviet Army, and you probably have more experience than Pete does himself and everything. So I don't know if that's a requirement that you have to be an American citizen. It probably is, but if not, maybe we'll put your name in the hat. That we've got friends in high places such as Jonathan and others. So are you ready to take on the job of head of the Defense Department for America?
I would politely decline this opportunity. No, I wouldn't take this job.
Okay, I got a whole different view of this stuff. I did hear Jacoby's rant and rave about Peter Hudspeth, whatever his name is.
That was actually Rick who was ranting and raving.
Was Rick? Well, anyway, I heard Jacoby, this is the earlier show, rant and raving how bad
yeah,
Peter is.
it was me.
Okay, you guys are way off base. Okay, because here's the report I got from Salt Lake. The liberals got destroyed by Peter in this congressional hearing, number one. Number two, if you looked at his resume, Peter graduated from Princeton and Harvard. None of those stupid liberals had, and was valedictorian of his class. This guy is incredibly smart. He's incredibly smooth, and he basically destroyed you guys' entire argument. And to say he's not qualified, they say, well, Kamala Harris isn't qualified to run a lemonade stand. Why was she vice president? So their arguments are very cogent. All I'm hearing from liberals is we don't like, yeah. And
No.
in reality, if there's anything bad to say about this guy, he can't keep it in his pants, but neither the Democrats or Republicans in Washington, D.C. have a record of doing that. So frankly, you guys are all wrong. He's as qualified as anybody else out there to lead the Defense Department.
No, okay. The
More
only thing that
qualified than
matters,
Kamala
the
Harris
only
to
thing
become
that
president of the
matters
United
is
States and just deal with it.
Hold on,
Well,
just real quick. Just to
Kamala
point out.
Harris didn't graduate from
No,
Princeton.
hold on, Nick. Hold on. We got all
Go
that.
on. Go on.
You're going down talking points, but let me point out something that was pointed out actually in the actual hearing. He could not name any treaties or anything that we were dealing with that dealt with the Defense Department. He couldn't name it. And then when he was told one, he then turned around and said, hey, you know what? I was teaching that one. So don't tell me he's qualified and he doesn't even know the department that he's actually supposed to lead. Even worse, if you have to defend the man by saying, many of us show up to drunk to vote, so why are you talking about him drinking? If that's your defense, that who else here doesn't show up drunk, that man is unqualified.
No, that's
Right.
that's
The
just your
only
opinion.
thing-
We're totally off
the
base.
only thing that
I mean, the
matters.
thing is,
Hold on.
if
The only
you
thing that
look at
matters
it,
is
okay.
that there are 50. Hold on. Let me talk. Hold on. Let me
Go
talk.
ahead, go
The
on.
only thing that matters is that there are 53 Republicans and 47 Democrats in the Senate. He's going to get confirmed. Now, we were
Absolutely.
spoiled because he's replacing a guy with 41 years of military service who ran CENTCOM, who was vice chief of staff of the Army. The guy, with like just an insane amount of the previous guy, Lloyd Austin, had to get an exemption to even serve as Secretary of State because there's supposed to be a minimum buffer period between being a general and running the Department of Defense as a civilian. So we just kind of got used to it. A highly qualified guy.
You guys are missing the point.
Nick, hold on.
Now we're going to have
Let me ask you this, Nick.
Hold
Now,
on a little
wait,
bit,
real quick, Nick.
Did
now-
you graduate from
Hold
Princeton?
on, real quick, Nick.
No.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. Now, I see you're
Did you
already
graduate
in your
from
student
Princeton? Were
tie.
you valedictorian of your
Hold on,
class?
wait,
No.
Nick. Let me ask you this question. Hold on. I got a good one for you.
Yeah,
Now, I
good.
see you already in your suit. You got your tie on and everything. You're probably
Yeah, 'cause
dealing
I
with
have
some
to go
litigation.
find-
Hold on, wait. You're probably dealing with some litigation, and you have to build a team. Now, if you choose, are you going to choose the person that has no clue about litigation to be on your team?
It depends.
Oh,
It depends
Nick,
what I'm
Nick,
doing.
Nick.
The other thing is, if I'm doing a forms practice, of course not. And the thing is, a lot of cases when you're building teams, you bring in people that are more expert than certain areas. But that
What
doesn't
is he
mean
an
you have to
expert
be an expert.
in the
Okay,
Department of
listen
Defense
to
when he
me.
doesn't know any
Listen to
litigation that
Tony,
they deal with?
because you've never operated in a leadership position, so I'm going to help you out here, buddy. Okay?
He doesn't
The
know
thing is,
anything
as a
about the
leader,
areas that he's going
a leader
into.
doesn't necessarily mean you need to be an expert in treaties. You
He
find
just-
an expert
he
in treaties
said
and
he
an
taught
expert
it.
treaty. So he will
He
be
said he
confirmed.
taught it.
He will be confirmed, and rightfully so.
He'll be
The
confirmed because the
experiment of
Republicans
this
bent the knee,
democracy,
not
whether you
because
guys
he's
know it or
a good
not,
candidate.
was to bring commoners in like you guys to run the country as opposed to royals like me that were trained from birth to be leaders. Okay? And that's the whole experiment of this democracy that Washington, D.C. is based on. So give this guy a chance. He's up to bat, and let him go to bat. And I know you hate it because he's a Republican, but that's
No,
too bad.
it's not that he's a
He went
Republican.
to Princeton. He
He's
went to Harvard.
unqualified.
He's got a good CV.
He's unqualified. Nick,
Put him up
he's
to bat.
unqualified, and we have a powder keg
Stop
happening
crying.
in the Middle East. We have Ukraine and Russia going on. We have
crying.
military issues that are happening across the globe, and we're picking an unqualified individual who doesn't know the Department of Defense. He doesn't know the Department of Defense, the place that he's supposed to run. He doesn't know what they
Kamala
deal
Harris
in,
is unqualified. Come on,
except for
Jatovi.
when told. And then he says, "Hey, what? You know what? I taught that." No, dude, you don't know. You're just unqualified. Just
Kamala Harris is unqualified. That's the reason
she
didn't win.
actually is more qualified than he
Why?
is.
Why? What did she lead? She was an attorney general, and then she was a vice
Of the
president.
largest
She had no leadership
state
roles
in the
at all.
country. It is actually
And she had
it
no
has
leadership
it
experience
has what?
whatsoever. She was never
Rick, correct
governor
me
of
if
the
I'm
state.
wrong. It is the fourth
Come on,
largest
man.
budget
She
across the
didn't lead.
globe, isn't it?
She
Fourth
didn't
or
even organize
sixth
the
largest
lemonade
budget
stand.
across the globe.
She was a leader of nothing, Jatovi. And
She
you
led
were okay
more
with
He was
her
than what
also
being
a
he did.
president of the
senator
United States.
for 4 years,
Well,
but and
obviously,
also
most
the
senators
VP
were.
is
She had a
is
lot of
not a
leadership.
Yeah,
Hey,
she had a
Nick.
whole lot of leadership.
Hey, Nick. I want to come back to
is
something you said.
is a
Nick, hold on a second. I
ministerial
want to come back to
position.
something you were talking about
Your
earlier on the.
candidate,
Hold
your
on.
candidate
hold
had
on.
no
Hold on.
leadership experience whatsoever.
Rick,
Zero.
Rick, I
She
got a
didn't
question
lead
for
a
Nick, but
lemonade
I'll
stand.
defer
She
to
had
you
more
first.
leadership than he did.
No. She had
Oh,
none.
that's the main point because,
And
like,
you were
right
okay
now
with her being
she's not in
president. You're
office.
not
Right now,
even
we
a
kind of
leader.
decide who's going
Come
to
on,
be
give me a break.
running the country and everything. But I did have a question for you and everything. It was based on a conversation I had after our World Edition show earlier this morning and everything. So I just wanted to see if I understand your notion of what should and should not be funded. There is an entire state. We actually have a person on this network that is got ties to that state, Dr. Anthony and everything. So if I'm hearing you correctly, and this was federal money partially that was involved in it, then the people that live in New Orleans shouldn't live in New Orleans because New Orleans is in an earthquake zone, and people that live in New Orleans know that they're in an earthquake zone. So, and they know that there are things.
New Orleans is in a floodplain. It's below sea level. No, they shouldn't live there.
Hold on, before we go to that, let's finish up Kamala Harris and Pete Hegseth. As Attorney General,
Let's hear about it.
Kamala Harris was in charge of 50. Hold on, was in charge of 5,600 employees. That's more than 100 times more employees than Pete Hegseth ever was in charge of. Plus, she was VP. According to another VP, the vice presidency isn't worth a bucket of warm spit. It's not exactly a crucial leadership position like the Department of Defense.
Oh, I see. So she qualifies because she led. Her biggest position was something that wasn't worth anything. Okay. Yet you were willing to elevate her to become president.
Well, no, the California. Hold on. The California Department.
Hold on, wait.
She was in charge.
This is what makes you a fabulous lawyer.
Hold on. No, let me talk. She was Attorney General of California. General is right in the title, and she was in charge of 5,600 Department of Justice employees for a decade more. She was
an
AG and assistant
the governor. So the thing is that's still not a leadership position. So when you're looking at Kamala Harris,
yes, so the Secretary of Defense is an employee of the president. So
yeah, what leadership position?
That's a weird argument.
What leadership position has Pete Hegseth had that you're considering is bigger and more important? Wait, let me finish the question, Nick. That's bigger and more important than the DA, the AG, and the VP. What leadership position has Pete Hegseth held that is bigger than those?
Hey, but see, but as I was trying to explain to you, Jatovi.
No, Nick. Now you're going down this rabbit hole. I asked you a straightforward.
No, I'm saying that he has as much experience as Kamala Harris.
I asked you a straightforward question.
He has none.
What position has Pete Hegseth held that is more important than the DA or even the AG? We'll take the VP out of it. Give me a position that Pete Hegseth has held that manages more people or is more important than what she has done.
He didn't have any, Jatovi, but see, that's
so you're saying, wait, Nick.
That's the
you just
of your democracy.
You have destroyed your own
I think that you should hire royals You should hire royals and people
You
that
have-
have royal birth and are trained from their kids to be
So
leaders.
wait a second.
Oh, wait a minute. We can't
You
do that. because
started
we're
off
democracy.
this whole
So
discussion
just deal
by
with your
saying-
democracy, dude.
You started the discussion by saying Pete Hegseth was more experienced than Kamala Harris.
Yeah, because
I
she has
asked
none
you a
also.
simple
Yeah,
question
people have
to
none.
prove that he's more qualified, and you turn around and now say, well, she's a royal, so therefore,
No, I
No,
let's
he's
get a
saying he's a
commoner.
role. He's saying he's a role. He wants everybody to be in office to look like
No.
Nick.
I get that, but he is actually equating Kamala Harris to his status, saying that now she's a royal because he cannot come up with a position that Pete Hegseth has that makes him more qualified than she is.
What I said, but you don't listen very well. I said that she's not qualified, he's not qualified, but that's
You
part
argued
of
that
the
he was.
They're both not qualified, but that's the experiment.
But
of
do
democracy.
we want not? Hold on a second.
They're not qualified by your metric.
election was won Trump by micro advantage, was what, 1.5 million votes. So Kamala Harris, while not qualified, who is nobody, she got almost as many votes as overqualified, brilliant Donald J. Trump. How
Yeah,
could you
well, the
expect-
thing is, Donald J. Trump had executive experience. And
What experience? Stealing money and just fuck people all over the place? That's his experience? He's a criminal. That's what his experience is.
You've been in business, and now you know what. Come on, son. You've been in
hold on a
business,
second.
now you know what
Hold on a second.
experience is
Hold on a
all
second.
about.
Nick, one of the original questions I
I
asked
don't know why you
before
guys
you
have a
and
problem.
Jacoby came on and
He's
everything.
convicted felon. He's a
let's
criminal. Who are you
Hold
talking
on,
about?
hold on. Let me finish up here.
Obviously, your position
Let's give the
are not
military
by the
experience
vast majority
of
American
the
public.
previous four. Previous military experience of the four previous secretaries of defense. 41 years in the military, 21 years in the military, 21 years in the military, 44 years in the military. So we've had a recent experience with these guys, except for the guys who stepped in for like a week. You know, the guys who spent significant time as Secretary of Defense had a ton of military experience. And we could go back, we could probably find somebody who was a civilian, but recently we've had a ton of.
Yeah, no, hold on a second, Nick. Hold on a second, Nick.
I don't get your point.
I got that you don't get the argument, but I have wanted coming back to what we were talking about before you and Jacoby jumped on, because you and David have talked about the fact that we don't want new agencies and everything. That's one of the things that apparently DOGE is supposed to be fighting against. Now, Trump is saying he's going to create a new agency to collect revenue from foreign sources. So we're not going to have the IRS. We're going to have the external revenue services. So what is your thoughts around this? Trump himself is saying he's about to create a new agency that's going to collect revenue from the foreign people that he wants to pay more. So instead of the IRS, which goes after us in America, he's going to create the external revenue service, which will be a new agency. So are you okay with this? This is a new agency.
I'm always okay with bringing revenue in the door, Mark. Always okay with that.
Even if it's
Hold on. Here's a better question mark. Because now we're having government redundancy. DOGE is the same thing as the Government Accountability Office, which is supposed to do the same, look after the same exact things, give recommendations. But no, we have individuals that are coming in that are rich that are going to be advising the office of presidency, an oligarchy. Now he's saying he's going to do what? Exactly what you said. It's going to be another agency outside of the government that the individuals will not have to be go through any type of background checks. It's just bounty hunters going after people that he wants to get money from. So instead of actually joking around with all these, crazy things, no, it's an oligarchy. And now he's going to have his own private industry going after individuals he wants to pay. That's all it is.
But like I said, I don't have any problems with oligarchy. That's your problem. But let me ask you this, Jacoby. Ask you this, okay? How much military experience does your commander-in-chief, Joe Biden, have?
I'm not exactly sure where you're going with this conversation.
Answer the question. Anybody on the panel? Oh, come on, leftist. You got to know you're a president. How much military?
He didn't serve, but
He didn't serve in the military.
excuse me. What did you say?
He doesn't, but that's
Okay,
a weird.
so-
All right, but
wait,
he's
wait,
not
wait,
just.
wait.
Hold
Well,
on.
you're telling me, Rick, he has zero military experience.
So,
He's the head of
I
the
can
armed
see what you're
forces.
trying to
right,
do
but he's
here.
got
That is
more-
a desperate
Okay,
play.
let-
That is a
let me just
desperate play.
I'm just going to repeat what I just said. Your commander in chief
Does Donald
Yes.
Trump have any
has
military experience?
no military.
Does Donald Trump have any
experience.
military experience?
No military.
No, he does not.
experience.
Does the
No military
Department of
experience. And he's
Defense
commander-in-chief
head?
of the
Does the
Armed Forces
Department
of the
of
United
Defense
States.
have
With
had
that,
military
I
experience?
will bid you guys
I don't know what
goodbye.
you're trying to
Let's
get
have a
to.
real
That's a
friend
desperate
now.
play.
Enjoy it.
I don't
Enjoy
think
it.
Reagan had any military experience either, because I know he played some people in the. I know he played some folks in played John Wayne type characters, but I'm trying to think. Did he serve Rick and everything? You'd have to look that up because I can't remember if he served. Ronald Reagan.
Reagan was
what? Reagan was in the military, but Reagan
Guys, I gotta run to-
Reagan served. You know, he here's Steve, but we can go back to this
Yeah, well,
after Steve.
I came in by mistake. I got called into an emergency city council meeting, so I need to leave. I just wanted to say hi. I'm so sorry. I'll be on Thursday. Or actually, probably not till next week. But anyway,
Hey,
lots
before you
going on
go
in the world.
to before you go to your meeting, are you doing anything with the celebration? Because there's some major Indian celebration that I've been reading about. For the
Yeah,
last
Makar. It's Makar Sankranti, and no, I'm not doing anything. I got too much going on. Wake County's a big county, so I gotta travel to meet millions of people over the next 6 months. But thank you. Yeah, I'll be on probably next week as we do a post-Trump inauguration. All eyes on Donald Trump as he is sworn in on Sunday on Monday on MLK Day, and we'll be talking about Trump 2.0, the shift in foreign policy, the shift in United States policy, and what to expect as we're blazing fires in California and lots of exciting stuff. So I wish you all a great show. Sorry for the last minute call. I got called in. I thought the meeting started at 6, but I got to head over. It's already started. I'm late. But thank you so much, Mark. And I'll try to see you tomorrow. Otherwise, it'll be next week.
All right, no problem. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow or later on this week and everything like that. I do know, speaking of the inauguration, that there are some counter protests. I know that there are even some.
To Mark. Let me respond to Mark's weird point that Biden has no military experience. Biden has more experience holding national level political office by 21 years than any previous president. 36 years as senator, 8 years as VP, and now 4 years as president. It's too much experience because he got freaking old doing it, but he's deeply experienced, and commander-in-chief is just one of the jobs the president does. So, and we saw how the previous guy who had zero political experience did as president. Now he's back, and now he has 4 years of experience. Will he do any better? I kind of doubt it.
I doubt it. We'll see what happens and everything. I was going to say to Steve's point about the inauguration, there are some counter protests, because I know that there are some that I've already heard about. There'll be even here in Durham and everything along those lines. I'm sure there'll be some even in DC and other places, and some of them will be tied to the MLK holiday, so they might be held in churches, and some of them will be direct counter protests to the inauguration of the president-elect. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that space. And I know some of that is the leadership of some of those organizations, what Nick calls the leftists, trying to make sure that their issues are still out in the forefront, whether that's LGBT rights or trade or rights of the unions or a number of other concerns that they have about the incoming administration, including immigration and a number of other things. So I know that that's what they'll be doing at their protests, is keeping their voice out there so that they can be heard and let people know where they stand on those things, and possibly even setting themselves up for a run in some cases in 2 years or 4 years from now, whether that's state runs or national runs, because there are definitely people that are trying to figure out who the candidates will be nationally and on statewide and even on the international scene. Because as I think Sasha has pointed out, and I know Shaquille has pointed out a couple of times, it does seem like a lot of right-leaning candidates are winning worldwide. And some of them have the support of who I think Sasha jokingly called President Musk and everything like that. But he can go into his own explanation of that, because some people are saying that there is not a President Trump. There's actually President Musk and everything like that. So, Sasha, is that what I heard you say earlier, that it's really President Musk and we're just actually going through a motions by having the current
Okay, you can treat it this way, except that if Musk will be denied the access by FBI, then his effectiveness will be greatly diminished, and I think he will get actually. You see, Musk is getting this new position, and it hasn't been even established what kind of position is a cabinet position. Probably not. So it's advisory position or whatever it is. Obviously, Trump will not be able to deliver on it, and he will quickly collect dividends what this position brings to him, and it's already evident even now. And then he'll just quit that, and he'll say, "Okay, you have Vivek. Vivek is a very talented guy. Vivek Ramaswamy, he will fix everything. Bye bye."
Yep. It'd be interesting to see how that goes and everything. Hey,
So,
Rick,
a lot of
thing
the
you said-
people who are pissed off, hold it. But a lot of the people who are pissed off about Trump being president again are tired too. I'm freaking tired, and are just hoping. Well, have two contradictory hopes. One, that he doesn't screw things up too bad, and two, that he does screw things up bad, so that we get a change of government in 2 years when we reelect a new Senate and a new House.
Right.
And there's some indication that he won't be super effective, in that they haven't even, that some of the people that they were supposed to have Senate hearings into, some of his nominees for cabinet positions, they've had to delay those hearings because Trump's people couldn't even complete the paperwork necessary. I don't know what kind of paperwork to get them in front of the Senate. Some paperwork you need before you can even be considered an official nominee.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the paperwork is, but I know that they've got to be vetted, supposedly, even though there was some talk about some of these candidates not having to be vetted as much as the candidates in the past and everything like that. But yeah, I'm not sure what all that paperwork is either, but it should be interesting to see what that paperwork will be and whether everybody's got the correct paperwork that they need and everything like that. Hey, Sasha, y'all were talking about it earlier. Go ahead. Rick,
Yeah, in his previous presidency, a lot of positions were either vacant or just acting, or a temporary person, because they couldn't get it together to get their cabinet nominees to be fully vetted and then approved by the Senate. So it looks like it might be the same way.
Yeah, it might be the same way this time as well. Yeah. Hey, Sasha.
Well, also, Shaquille is saying to let him in.
Okay. I'll see if I can let him in. Well, I'm letting him in, or trying to get him in and everything, trying to get the things going.
Right. I like watching Jacoby because he's showing us a lot of different backgrounds. We saw trees, we saw inside, now we're seeing a house. It's nice.
Yeah, see, I'm outside. I have to clean out the car. We're looking at, replacing this old car finally. So I had to clean out this one to get it ready for tomorrow.
So giving us a view.
That sounds like the White House, mate. They've got to clean out the White House, clean out the old president, get ready for the new one who's 2 years younger. Brilliant.
I mean, yeah, I do have to clean out this, but I'm not letting Klan rally people in here. But I guess that's what happened at the White House.
Oh, really? Yeah. Those DC Klanhood people. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, I heard my name invoked by Mark Lee, so I thought I would join just after Rick's comments about Biden and then the other guy, because heaven forbid we mention Trump by name. But look, all these sort of fluff about the confirmation hearings and the this and the that, as if every Democrat that was put up, that none of them were worthy of any criticism. Everything Republicans said was wrong. Everything that centre-right political parties around the world say is wrong. And only the people on the centre-left, only they sit on the side of the angels. Well, guess what, fellas? It ain't working out for you too well. Europe's moving to the right. The US is moving to the right. Canada's moving to the right. Australia's moving to the right. And you know why? Because we've had enough of left-wing nonsense. That's why.
Well, just to point
a
out,
lot of people
real
got
quick,
enough
Shaq,
of right-wing nonsense as well.
just to point out real quick, Shaq, just because somebody moves to the right doesn't mean that it's a good thing. For example, when you're saying we were just talking about Pete Hegseth. Now, if you are making a team around financial advisors, you're like trying to get ready to make some investment into some crypto because we've talked about it. You're going to build a team around crypto. Are you going to hire a guy that doesn't know anything about crypto to be your investor in crypto?
My investment manager. Well, no, I'm not going
Thank
to
you.
bring
So
somebody
when
onto my
we're-
team.
there's
Let me
nothing
finish.
wrong-
Excuse me.
Well,
Let me
it was
finish
just
my
a simple
answer.
question because I
No.
got a point.
No. You'll let me finish my answer. No, let me finish my answer.
I just wanted that simple no.
No,
That's
no,
the answer,
if that's what you want. No, excuse me, Jacoby.
Simple no.
Excuse me.
Let me
We've
finish.
been through this. We've been through this before. If you ask questions trying to evoke a specific answer, you might as well just make the statement that you want to make. You've asked me a question, and I would like to finish my answer.
Okay, so you're going to add in more that you would then want to hire the person? Is that going to change your no from to a hire the
Can
person?
you? How about rather than you speculating, you just let me finish my answer? Right? It's not going to hurt you. Well, actually, it might because you're on the left, so anything could hurt you. But you might be
Go ahead
okay.
and
You
finish
may
your answer.
possibly be okay without some counselling and a safe space and a cry
finish your
closet.
answer because we're wasting
Right.
time here.
No, I wouldn't employ somebody who doesn't have experience in the field that I need them in. Okay. But ditto, this is exactly what Democrats are doing when they say, and the people on the woke left, when they say, well, this person's gay, this person's LGBTQ, this person has a certain skin color or ethnicity, right? And we don't care, and we don't care at all about their qualifications, and we don't care at all whether they've got the requisite experience to do the job.
Nobody is saying, hey, we're going to hire this person because they're gay. No, that's not right. And you know the funny thing is, hold on, real quick, Shaq. Are you saying that
seriously?
Hold on. So based on your answer, are you saying that black people are unqualified? Are you saying that gay people are unqualified and they can't meet those
Did I say
qualifications?
anything like that? Did I say anything like that? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. That's your instant victim mentality. That must be the implication of what you said. It's absolute nonsense.
Then listen to what I'm saying. So when you just made your statement about, oh well, this is why people are being hired. No, they're being hired for their qualifications, and it just so happens that they are black, and it just so happens that they are LGBTQIA. So it fits in that community, and it's a proud thing to be because there are a lot of people. For example, right now in the college football championship, there has never been a black head coach to win the college football championship. Now we actually have one that has actually made the championship, and that is going to be played on Monday. Pointing that out doesn't mean that the man is unqualified. Pointing that out means, hey, look, it's kind of cool that this is the first time this has happened. But what you want to do is say, oh my goodness, you're just talking about him being black. No. He's a good coach. He's a darn good coach. Coaching for Notre Dame. So again, what I'm trying to point
I think you've made your point. Let me respond to you.
Had nothing to do with race. What I simply asked you was would you hire somebody unqualified? With Pete Hegseth, he didn't know what the DOD was dealing with in terms of its treaties and lawsuits and all this other stuff. So he is wholly unqualified for the position. That doesn't matter if he's black, white, green, gray, or whatever. That's who he is.
All right, now you've finished that big long rant. Come on, I'm rarely on the show, these guys. Rick, let me just have a few minutes.
Yeah, go ahead, Shaquille.
Okay, all right.
So, firstly, when it comes to criticism of people like Ketanji Jackson Brown, Brown Jackson, for the Supreme Court, she was put there because she was black. It wasn't like what Jacoby's trying to make out with the coach. And I'm not familiar with this particular coach. By the way,
person's never picked because they're white. Black people are always picked because they're black. It's funny how that always works out.
Interrupting me already. So sensitive. I mean, I'm hardly even on the shows anymore, and you're still this sensitive.
I'm just pointing out the facts because you're going down.
I know. You're this sensitive. You don't have anybody on. It's you, Nick, Rick, sometimes Thatcher, and you're still going to jump in.
Nick was very much being pro conservative and everything earlier and everything because he had a very role or argument.
So,
And
so
everything.
can I continue, or should we just hand it over to
Please
Jacoby, or what?
Wait.
Please continue. Please continue, Shaquille.
All right. So you bring these people in, right? And you tell us that the reason they're being put into this position is because of their skin color, or like Pete Buttigieg because he's gay, and all this sort of stuff. And then when we say something about it, there's every excuse made. But then when Republicans put somebody up, like, is anybody surprised that Democrats and the wokesters are like, nitpicking on every little thing? Of course not, right? Nobody's surprised by that. Now the doctor, Dr. Carson, did he have the right qualifications and experience to be in charge of HUD? No. Brilliant doctor, very smart guy. He didn't have the right qualifications. I'm happy to admit that. I'm happy to say that Pete Buttigieg also didn't have all the right experience to be the transportation person. However, this is what happens. What's the difference this time round? Trump is picking people who aren't political because that's the mandate that he thinks he's got. He thinks that that's what people want. So this constant changing the goalposts and constantly trying to twist things into something else, your party lost this election, as was really obvious to anybody who was looking at the numbers, that was looking at the polls, that was looking at what the voting trends were, that was listening to what the people were saying. It was really obvious the Democrats were going to go into a catastrophic loss this election season. And then when it happens, Democrats sit there shocked and stunned. And then they try to find excuses and they say, well, the voters are dumb. The voters are idiots. The voters don't know what they're talking about. Donald Trump's this terrible person. The reality is that the goods that you have to sell are no longer resonating with the people. And if you want to have a strong centre-left political party in the United States, which I believe is important, then what the centre-left political party has to do is to come back to where the people are. Don't foist your ideas on the people, listen and respond to the people. Now, 10 years ago and 20 years ago, I used to say that to centre-right political parties. The pendulum has swung. It's now the centre-left's turn to say maybe our ideas have ostracised people.
Well,
all right, so I have a whole new topic that's more fun than what we're talking about. It's not really fun because it's based on a tragedy, but they're thinking of canceling this year's Oscars because it's too freaking sad with so many people losing everything in the fires. They think it'll be in bad taste to throw this fancy ceremony. And so they don't know what to do. They may cancel it. At the very least, they are canceling the swag bags that every nominee gets that are worth about $175,000. Nobody is going to get fancy treats this time around.
But Rick, isn't that?
Look, I don't think that's actually. I don't think that's particularly positive. I think that Hollywood and California need to send a message of recovery, although the timing could be a little bit awkward, obviously, with these fires. I would suggest that it would be logical. The most logical place to put it would probably be New York, which traditionally was sort of the media center of America before California came along. So I think that it'd be wise to hold it there. Having said that, people aren't watching the Oscars and the Academy Awards that much anyway. But my real concern for California is actually the Olympics. I think that it's a great way for a place to put itself back on the map, to draw that international attention. I know it's very costly. We have it in 2032. I think we've got the next one after you guys in Queensland and Australia. I'd love to see that happen, and I hope that California will have the resources to rebuild, because it's been very devastating. I've got friends of mine in Malibu on the beach that have actually lost their homes as well. So I would like to see LA bounce back for all that I've said.
Hey, Shaquille, just really quickly.
Two things. Hold on. I called my broker and I said, I want to participate economically in the rebuilding of Los Angeles. And he said, well, no, that doesn't work for construction. Construction is mostly done by, small private companies. He said, if you want to participate, and this sounds terrible, and it is, buy stock in an insurance company. So I bought stock in Chubb, because it turns out, even with all the devastation, freaking insurance companies clean up. And thing two, LA has had 2 Olympics. We have a ton of sports teams. We ought to be able to throw the Olympics for not as much money as a lot of other cities because we have so many arenas and we've thrown it twice before. It would suck if we spend like 30 billion building new crap when we have a bunch of perfectly good and often brand new arenas that we can use. Also, universities where they have their own.
I just want to say that.
So let's see if we fuck it up or not.
I just want to say I do agree with not having the Oscars go on because it does. Because the Oscars mainly it always feels like a celebration of Hollywood, and with the devastation that's going there, regardless where you put it, it's still going to have that feel of Hollywood and these rich people, these rich entertainers that we hate. And we're going to have to rebuild their homes. It's still going to bring a lot of angst. So I can understand and I empathize with that being moved. And in terms of the Olympics,
but yet when Republicans and conservatives criticize Hollywood for being rich and out of touch, you say, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about." When people like me say these people that earn $30 million and $50 million a movie, who use tax breaks, who then tell the rest of us that the rich should pay more, if they're all full of shit, you're the first one to jump up to defend them.
We get your comment, but what you are missing, just to make some political points, is the fact that people are sitting there dead. People are dying. People have nothing.
How am I missing that point?
Stop, Shaq. Let me finish.
How am I missing that point? Don't sit there and say something like that. I'm missing the point that people are dying. We had devastating bushfires here in Australia. What are you talking about?
Stop. Let me say my point. So again,
well, you want to level something like that at me, and then you don't expect me to respond to it?
Can I say my point? Can I say my point so you can respond to it? Can I say my point? So when you have a situation where a catastrophic event has just happened, it's like having with what happened in Western North Carolina, then people come out and have a big party at the Biltmore Estates. There's death and devastation all around, and the community's trying to find some way to come together. But yet you want to come out here and party. Regardless what it is, it's going to be seen as offensive. And that is something that I think is a positive thing, that they recognize that, because you don't want to be tone deaf. There are a lot of problems. We agree. Yes, Hollywood can be tone deaf. There are people that can be tone deaf, but this is a situation where they're not being, and because they're not being tone deaf, it's a positive thing. It's people opening their eyes. In terms of the Olympics, because it's a distance away, they should have an opportunity to actually garner funds and rebuild a lot to get ready. Look what happened when they had it in the UAE, where they were able to get a bunch of money and actually build a whole cityscape for FIFA. So they should be able to put monies together to actually rebuild LA to a point where they can actually have the Olympics. As a matter of fact, the Olympics, I was actually going to be out there because of two reasons. One, I had the opportunity because I have individuals that are working that Olympics, working some of the production team, and they were looking at asking me to come out and help out a little bit. They were also, I was thinking about going out there because my sister's going to be right over top of some of the Olympic sports that are going to take place right there outside of where she lives. So there's a lot of, I am kind of invested in that. So I think they should be able to rebuild for the Olympics.
Great point. Very enlightening. I'm just going to say that when I comment,
Rick?
Very few potential Olympic venues were affected by where the fires were. That's thing one. Thing two is I have a prediction. They hold the Oscars. They figure out how to use the Oscars to funnel millions of bucks to regular people who had their houses destroyed. That every nominee picks, instead of getting a goodie bag, every nominee who would normally get a $200,000 bag of fancy stuff picks a regular person, and that person gets their house rebuilt.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Hollywood has never been that kind-hearted, but we're constantly told how inspirational these people are. So I make the comment that it would probably make more sense, and there's already talk about them potentially hosting the Oscars in New York. And then Jacoby starts to say that what I don't understand about the fires, that people are dying, as if we don't have bushfires here in Australia. Now, I'm going to withdraw from telling you what I think of
That
Joe,
is
because
not
young ears,
my
but,
point.
you
You
know, that's
ignore my
ridiculous.
point to try and make some of this. Oh no, Shaq, I'm saying people
I
right
heard
now.
what you said. You went on for several
Shaq,
minutes,
here's
and
a
I listened to
simple
everything you said.
analogy that might be able to help you. Here's a simple
I
analogy.
don't need your help. I don't need your help. Let's move on.
Okay, then
I don't need
stop trying to misquote me and say that I'm saying something
it.
wrong.
Jacoby,
which
you
you're just
made a comment.
misquoting.
Jacoby, you made a comment. You wouldn't let me respond to it. Then you went on and on and on about the Olympics and your sister's going to be there and you're thinking about going there, etc. That would be the same as me saying I was going to the 2020 Olympics in Japan. I didn't get to go because of COVID. Like you took the topic way off because you knew that I wanted to respond to that comment that you made that I don't understand people are dying because you can't help but try to depict me as some sort of heartless person because I don't agree with your politics.
No, I'm not saying that you're a heartless person.
Yeah, but that's what you try to depict me as, and you do it time and time again.
All I said was let's accept that Hollywood is not being tone deaf at this situation. That's it. But you can't accept that because I said it.
All right, yeah.
Well, there's a lot of back and forth and misinterpretation.
Hold on. I got a question for Shaq. So I just looked up the bushfires, and they are almost, in terms of cost and deaths, very similar to the LA fires. 100 billion worth of damage, a few dozen deaths. So my question to you is, after the fires or during the fires, there had to be the same kind of finger pointing, trying to figure out who was responsible, right? In Australia.
Yeah, and the fingers were pointed at the same political groups, the centre-left political parties. So, just to sort of put things in perspective, our Prime Minister at the time was actually in Hawaii at that time when the fires were happening with his children. Now, it's not actually a federal issue. It is actually a state issue. But I think the optics of that were very, very poor. And he still, even though he's no longer the Prime Minister, still gets criticised for that. Okay, now he was the equivalent of the Republicans in Australia, right? He's the Prime Minister for them. However, what we had seen was the Greens and the Labor Party, so the equivalent of the Democrats, let's say, in the US, who refused to backburn, who refused to do all the sorts of things that had been done previously, despite the fact that they were repeatedly warned that if you don't do this, it's going to create the right type of environment for bushfires to get out of control. And that's exactly what happened. Does that sound familiar to people in California? Californians are talking about they didn't have brush fires. Please let me finish. The reservoirs were not full, all this sort of stuff, okay? Now, what we also hear is, well, you know what's really the cause of this? It's climate change. Climate change is the cause of it. If we just had more electric cars, okay, and we hear that in Australia, and a couple of years later, we're now hearing it in California. What we don't hear much of is just an admission that, hey, when you focus on DEI hiring practices in your fire brigade, when you focus on spending, what was it, $30-40 billion that's gone to the fire brigade pension fund, whilst, you know, the chief fire person, I forget her name, had warned them not to pull the 17 million or 20 million out of the budget. I mean, these are all the same sorts of things that were complained about in Australia. But yet, if I say it, that according to someone like Jacoby, oh, well, I'm just some hard right-wing nut job. No, I'm not a hard right-wing nut job. I can recognise bad management when I say it.
About a minute ago. Hold on a second, Jacoby.
Follow-up
One thing I was going to point out. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. One thing I was going to point out really quickly.
Let me ask the question.
So yes, it's been 5 years since the fires. Has any meaningful change happened in Australia since to reduce the likelihood?
So we've started backburning again, and there's been a change of management. And in credit to the people on the left, they've listened and learned from their mistakes. Okay, so I think that that's a very positive thing. But as I've said before, I think that people before the event have to be prepared to listen to other people, especially experts in the field, rather than just jumping to the conclusion that, well, it's just some racist conspiracy, which is my fear of what's happening. And here's the real damage that gets done to a place like California. there's going to be a lot of people who can't recover financially who are going to move from California, which is going to reduce the tax base. You're going to see international investors who, like New York, are going to say, maybe I should look at Texas if I'm going to enter the US. Maybe California is not the right place to go. This is the long-term sort of damage that's done when management's bad. And it's actually up to the people of the state to say to their government, hey, you're screwed up.
The irony of saying that we're looking at racist things and then saying, well, it's DEI's fault. Yeah, there's a lot of irony in that. But then on top of that, why is it never in, why did nobody ask for Greg Abbott's head when the shootings were going on in Aurora and all of Texas? Why wasn't Ted Cruz's head rolled? Why weren't the Republicans out
What
west?
world do you live in?
Stop, Shaq, stop. I only got a little bit of time. Why wasn't the supermajority Republican Party who controls North Carolina, why didn't their heads roll? Why didn't the heads roll in Georgia? Why didn't the heads roll in Florida? What about in Louisiana with Katrina, where the levees actually broke and there was no funding for that when there were the scientists who told them this? The problem is messaging. We come up with these boogeymen to push political points, and that's exactly what you did, because the DEI, that thing just started in a few years. Just a few years ago, DEI was this thing. Yes, it was. DEI was never before, but now it came into existence. Before, it was affirmative action and other things.
I don't know what.
Only got a few more minutes. Only got a few more minutes.
Well, you're going to take all the time.
No, I'm not going to take all this time. You keep on interrupting me. Let me finish the point.
One quick thing before I got to go. We all got to go.
I just wanted to say this one last thing.
No, but let me say one crazy thing that I found out that also makes a lot of sense, but is horrible. That if a fire occurs naturally, lightning strikes, whatever, the pollution created by that fire doesn't count in the state's pollution budget. But if you start a backfire to control against wildfires, the pollution you create counts against your pollution budget, which is a terrible frickin' policy.
See, Rick, what I think that California, Texas, and some places, come on, Toby, God, you've made your point.
I just got interrupted a couple of times. I just want to finish this out. Record drought was not caused by DEI, but all this stuff and all these brush fires and everything else came along before DEI. It was there. Even in Australia, we want to blame it on the left wing this. No, we have to look at the science and stop looking at political points. And that's what you just did when you said, hey, it's DEI that caused this.
And by the way, really quickly.
So I think that when it comes to places like Texas, California, parts of Nevada, Utah, etc., Arizona, Colorado, some of those places where they have more arid conditions, they actually need a fire management plan, not just in populated areas, but actually because in some cases there are some trees, I talk about Australia, for example, there are some trees that actually can't spawn without fire. So that's why I think it's important that we have a fire management plan. These are all things that we do need to pay attention to. Some of our Indigenous or First Nations people are very much experts in this field. There are things that we can do. But when bad management occurs, it needs to be called out. I'm not sure what world Jatovie's in if he thinks that Governor Abbott wasn't called out over the Aurora shootings and the tragedy that befell those children and their families. But
he wasn't.
But I will say, are you interrupting me? But I will say that obviously in politics we have a lot of these topsy-turvy things that happen. Again, if I'm the first one to call out my side of politics when we do things that are wrong or stupid or don't work out. But it's very, very rare and very, very reluctant that I see people on the left just openly admit, yeah, we got this wrong and we screwed up. And personally, whilst I'm not a resident of California, I'm not American, but I actually think that it happened on Governor Newsom's watch, and I think that he should leave. And I'll give you the prediction that he won't run for the next election.
Well, he may not run, and definitely
and possibly because he has federal ambitions. But either way, I don't think he'll run for the next election. I think that's his job. And the mayor of LA, who was in Ghana for the inauguration of the president, I think that at the very least, she could have responded to the BBC reporter's question rather than just standing there, refusing to even speak. I mean, people are looking for some level of inspiration and leadership, and that was absolutely the wrong way to handle it.
But just
So
really
just
quickly,
what-
hold on a second, Toby. Just really quickly, one thing I was going to bring up earlier and everything. By the way, Shaquille, and this is not me just agreeing with you, Toby, but it was some of the right politicians that actually blamed the fire on DEI. They literally blamed it on DEI. That's actually a statement that came out where they blamed the fire on DEI.
Yes, correct. And I don't disagree with them. But what they're saying is
wait. Let me ask the question before you continue on this.
I'm responding to Mark. I'm responding to Mark.
Just a real quick thing to interject because I'm curious about your answer to this whole DEI situation. What DEI policies helped cause or create the record drought, the wildfire, the underbrush that helped fuel this fire, the low rainfall, the actual power going out where it caused the water pressure to drop so they couldn't get water to particular places because the power went out. What DEI policies are you saying that minorities are unable to are unqualified? Is it just, and why is it always when dealing with minorities it's always DEI, but never when there's a white guy? Why is there no DEI there? Because Mike Pence could be considered a DEI hire because he was a white dude that he was trying to get the evangelical vote. But why is that not a DEI hire? But it's always a black person or a woman that's a DEI hire. So, yeah, can you enlighten me on what policies you speak of that created or exacerbated the fire rather than just saying, well, it's DEI policies? That's generic. That doesn't mean anything.
No, Jatovi, I can't enlighten you. So,
Then
Mark,
you have no point.
Hold on a second, Toby. Go ahead. Shaquille, I think he's on mute. What are you going to say?
So, Mark, I do actually think the DEI policies and the DEI initiatives had an effect. And the reason I say that is because it appears, maybe I'm wrong, okay? I'm prepared to accept that. But it appears that there was so much attention paid to those things, so much attention paid to, do we have the right demographic makeup of the workforce and all these sorts of things, that I think just detracts away from the issues at hand when it comes to fire readiness and other, not just fire, ambulance services, hospital services. There's at the moment there's talk about, is the flight controllers, are they going to be able to manage the network properly because of the push to put people in there based on demographics as opposed to putting people in there based on their qualifications, experience, talent, etc. And that's where I think there's a problem. Now, to get to Jatovi's point about some white people put into positions like Mike Pence in order to win the evangelical vote, sure, of course that happens, okay? But if they do a bad job and they're not very well qualified, I'm going to call them out for it, okay? But it's not as obvious. People don't go out there and say, I'm picking a white guy because I want this vote. They don't say that. What we hear from the left all the time is that diversity is our strength, that if we have a more diverse workforce, that in and of itself is enough to make the workforce a better workforce, a stronger workforce, a more lethal military. And I don't agree with that. I don't think that makes sense. I think it's silly. Now, I don't think that people should be discriminated against. That's absurd. I don't think that every time there's a failure from somebody in leadership who's a person of color or gay or LGBTQ or a woman or whatever, that we should pick on that and point to that straight away and say, oh, well, that's why it went wrong. Of course we shouldn't be doing that. Okay, but I do think that especially in places like California, where comments have been made by leaders that have been really obnoxious to everybody else, and when it gets called out, it's like, oh, well, you're just picking on us. No, I think that there's a real problem there, and I think that resources and energy and effort and time from leadership has been taken up on things that is too far away from the core reason, the core thing that they're supposed to be focused on. And I just want to come back to one last thing that Jatovi talked about when we talked about crypto briefly. I know Sasha reasonably well, and Sasha will from time to time ring me to ask me about things to do with the market or to run a trading idea past me or whatever. He's not looking through his Rolodex, looking through his phone and going, how many people who aren't white who are qualified in finance do I know? He just looks at it and goes, oh, look, I know Shaquille and he's pretty knowledgeable. I'll give him a call. Okay. So, I am pretty sure that I get treated all over the world because of my talents and who I am, right? And I don't need to have somebody say to me, isn't it wonderful that you're the first person from Western Australia who's actually got family from, who are Fijian Indian, who's British, that went and achieved this particular thing. No, that's ridiculous.
Okay.
It's absurd. And if I tried doing that, and by the way, if I went to North Carolina and said, I'm going to hold a big rally because I want people that look like me, that have my same ethnic background and my same history. And if you can't find someone, then I don't want somebody to come and save me from a burning building. People would think I'm a bit nutty. But when you guys do it with the black community in California, that's wonderful, it's perfect. How could you possibly be criticized for it?
Okay. You just really tried to filibuster your way through this whole thing. So Mark legitimately asked you a question about DEI. I wanted you to specify what DEI policies you're talking about. Then you went on because you agreed with Mark that it's bad that these individuals.
I didn't even attempt to answer your question.
Wait. Can I finish? You agreed.
I didn't even attempt to answer your question. So why are you saying I filibustered?
Hold on. You agreed with Mark that it is bad to blame DEI or blame the fire on DEI. You, in the middle of your rant, you went and did that, which is fine. But then you went and justified why they blame DEI or blame the fire or blame bad situations on DEI. And then this is a funny part. You went and said, well, I'm sure that you're right that they probably picked Mike Pence to get the evangelical vote, but it wasn't that obvious. The man legitimately said that in his plan. That was actually what he said when he picked Mike Pence. So when it's not legitimately obvious or that obvious, I don't know how much more obvious you can get when he says that's why he was picked. Matter of fact, it was Trump that said that's why he was picked. Trump's team said that's why he was picked. Mike Pence even pointed that out. So I don't know how much more obvious you can get with that. The problem is, again, I understand Shaq. I love you. You're a great dude. You really are. But the problem that comes into play is that when you're justifying what you want to justify, you forget about the realities of the situation. When you, like with the fires and with the brush fires and all these things, I agree. When Karen Bass went overseas and she actually campaigned saying she wasn't going to go overseas, and then she goes overseas and she's not in town when the fire is happening, that's a bad look. That's a really bad thing. She should not have done that. I completely agree. But you can't even agree to when Ted Cruz did the same thing with the snowstorms. You didn't even agree with that. You didn't agree with you tried to point out, well, Greg Abbott. Well, yeah, some people said it. Nobody really went out there and said that about Greg Abbott. Everybody's championing Greg Abbott. They wanted him as vice president. So
I'd like to see the man as vice president of the US.
And you keep trying to push these quote unquote liberal policies when you're saying it's not. When we have these catastrophes, it's not liberal policies, conservative policies, or whatever. It's a problem that we need to fix. And this is where I completely agree with you. We need to listen to the science. But who is the most anti-science right now? That's where we disagree. Trump is pushing anti-science.
I don't think he is. I don't think he is.
How can I say that? RFK is the person he's picked for to head the department.
Okay. All right. Look, this is where. Let me respond to him. This is where you constantly come out and say to me, "This is where we have a problem." That's where we have a problem. And then what you do is you justify where we have a problem in that I don't understand or I don't get it. I get it, dude. We just don't agree. I don't agree with you that Republicans are anti-science. I don't agree with you in your assessments of RFK and Trump. I don't agree. And I think that I'm an intelligent enough person to be able to form my own opinions and to, with respect, tell you I don't agree with you. It's just as simple as that. I don't agree. Now, I notice, and it's been going on now for, the 4 or 5 years, whatever, since I've been coming onto this network. I noticed that, if I can give an example, in the attempted assassination of Trump in Pennsylvania, I was very quick to call out Republicans for talking about the head of the Secret Service, I forget her name, who was a DI pick, and for calling out the amount of females that were his close security bodyguards, whatever you want to call it. I was very quick to point out that they should ease off on that until we know more information about what actually happened. And we should find out whether perhaps people who are shorter in stature are the right people, etc. But it should be recognised that those agents were prepared to risk their own lives to save the life of Donald Trump. I said that straight away. And I didn't get any pushback from you guys. I didn't get anything. But the moment I say something that is in any way critical of your beloved holy Democrats, oh my goodness, it's so bad. And you've got to do your normal condescending lecturing about how I don't understand. Well, you know what, champ? It's that kind of attitude that led to this devastating loss, because people are sick and tired of being lectured to by people like yourself, who can't understand or accept anything they say and want to twist and turn and gaslight every comment that's made.
You did not do that during the assassination. And Mark, didn't I agree on Karen Bass? And I pointed out.
You agreed on Karen Bass, and you agreed on a couple other things. A couple of things I was going to point out, and then I'm going to wrap up this show. And one of them was a quick comment to Shaquille about something that I watched briefly yesterday that I was actually impressed with, and it actually involves his area. But one thing I will say that was kind of counter to what Jatovia said and everything was Marcus Freeman, the coach that he referred to and everything, actually kind of stepped away from that notion of being the first African-American coach and everything, because a lot of times people were trying to paint him in that corner and ask him how he felt about it, and he decided to be that whole team process. So it was all about the team, and it wasn't about him having that honor and everything. So I did notice that he did that a couple of interviews where he was basically like acknowledging that he was the first, but also trying to point out that it was a big team, because it's a football team. So it's like, I don't know how many people, 70 or 80 people, but it was about the team process and not necessarily about him being the first. So he kind of deflected that answer in my mind. That's just what I thought he did.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman is actually a really, really good guy and a good coach. He did do that. He actually did that when they were talking about it, when it was he and the head coach of Penn State, when that was going on as well. Marcus Freeman also, as a coach, really doesn't like the spotlight. When they were playing, matter of fact, at the post-game interview, it was he, his quarterback, and I think it was one of the wide receivers. And they had a trick play that they drew up. But the trick play itself, it was actually Marcus Freeman that changed it. And then Audible sent it in, and it actually played out and worked. Well, during that post-game press conference, Marcus Freeman was asked about that play, and he was going down the normal coach talk. But then his actual quarterback interrupted him and said, "Look, I cannot let you do this. It was because of you, coach," and went down the whole, look, let's try and praise the coach, because he actually never takes praise for himself. So Marcus Freeman, I'm not a Notre Dame fan at all, but Marcus Freeman I really like, because I like the way he coaches. Same with Mike Tomlin. Tomlin,
but you are focusing on him so much more because of the color of his skin. That's why you brought him up. No, but that's why you originally brought him up in this conversation. Look, here's the thing, and this has come up a few times, Mark, when you asked me about the spelling bee competition last year or the year before. Okay, I don't even know what you guys are talking about, right? I don't watch college football very often. I do occasionally, normally if the Trojans are playing or something, if USA is playing or something, but like, you know, same thing with college basketball. If the USC is playing a couple of the unis, but mostly I don't watch. I don't care. Plus, I'm on the other side of the world, and I find it fascinating with my black friends in America. Like, oh, this person's going to watch because they're black. I'm like, I don't even know the sport you're talking about. Like, what am I supposed to celebrate? I don't care, dude. So you guys are so hell bent on making. You guys are so hell bent. Let me finish, Toby. You guys are so hell bent on injecting race into everything, and then what you do is you act. Can you please let me finish, Toby? And then what you do? Let me finish. Let me finish. You guys are so hell bent. I'm not going to just sit here and keep asking you. Let me finish. Why don't you just let me finish?
Because what you're doing right now is you're
okay. So you've got a reason why you won't let me finish my sentence. And Mark, you think that's acceptable?
Because you started off your comment when Mark and I, and even you were included in the conversation, talking about how this man coached. It had nothing to do with this man being black.
Okay, yeah, you've said that. Now can I finish my sentence? Now may I finish my sentence? No, I can't. Okay.
Wait. I
That's
talked
good.
about
That's good,
a
yeah.
play that this man called. I talked about how he handled himself at the post-game press conference. I talked about how he doesn't like the center of attention. Mark talked about how he doesn't want to be even deal with that whole thing. But what you took out of it is, oh, you're only watching it because he's black. No, that's wrong.
Okay. Now may I finish my sentence?
Go ahead.
Thank you. And I didn't say that in any case, Toby. I didn't say you're only watching him. I said you're only talking about him. You only brought him up into this conversation because he's black. And what the black community in America does, in my opinion, is you guys act like you are the only people on the whole planet that has ever experienced. And he's cut me off again. He's cut me off.
I am, because again, you're
justified in cutting me off. I'm done. I'm going to go. I'm going to go. We're over time anyway.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's okay, Jacoby, Mark. You're the victims. You're the only people in the world who aren't white, who've had a horrible experience. Well done. Goodbye.
It's a kill. But what I was going to ask you and everything really quickly, because the sport that I saw that I watched, it was actually Australian.
Sorry, I actually
was the Australian Open,
Mark,
which is what I was going to get into, was the Australian Open, because I actually watched the Australian Open last night and was really impressed with a lot of the players, and I didn't care whether they were white, black. It was just the way that y'all were conducting that major tournament. So that's what I was going to bring up about Australia, was the Australian Open.
Mark, I have to go, and there's no point in asking me a question if the rules are that I'm only allowed to answer them for as long as Jacoby feels as though I should. And if Jacoby feels as though he can interrupt me because he's justified, you guys are like, yeah, okay, Jacoby, yeah, go for it. So there's no point asking me the question. Jacoby knows everything. Jacoby, could you please answer Mark's question about the Australian Open?
Oh, I'm going to do like Shaq. Oh, Mark, the only reason you're bringing up the Australian Open is because it's Australian. And the Australian people only feel like they're the victims and the only people out there. That's what Australians do, like Shaq. That's what you are. Just like the No. It's a sporting event. It's so I'm
that's
not
what I was bringing up. Was I thought they did a good job in the sporting event. I thought they did a good job with it. And on that note, we're going to get on out of here. But yeah, that's why I brought up the Australian Open, because I thought it was a good note. And like I said, I watched a couple of the matches, and they were very competitive and very good matches and everything like that. But on that note,
Mark, remember, you only brought it up because they're Australian, like Shaq says.
I saw you pop back in. I had not ended the show.
No, that's right. Where's Jacoby? Is he there?
He just bounced off and everything.
I have to actually leave because I've got people there. But if that was supposed to be an impersonation of me on the Aussie accent, I thought it was well handed. I'm not offended or anything. I thought that was fucking brilliant. That was funny. I like that.
All right, cool. On that note, we're getting ready to get on out of here. But yeah, that was a good accent, or at least an attempted one. And ironically, I had been doing voice coaching earlier today, because I had to play the voice of a oversized elephant and everything. So that's actually a friend of mine is doing, ironically, from California, what he's hoping is either going to be a musical or a movie and everything. He's done other movies. He used to work with George Lucas, so I had to learn how to throw words.
Are we still there? I thought we were backstage. Sorry, I thought I was talking to you backstage. I have to run, my friend. I'll see you later. Bye.